Hi, my name is Michael Meehan. This is the meeting of the Broadcasting Board of Governors, a continuation of the April 11th meeting, which the governors fixed for a time for an adjourned meeting due to lack of a quorum. In accordance with the BBG bylaws, this meeting is being recorded. The live broadcast will also be available at the BBG website, bbg.gov. With the absence of presiding Governor Linton and the departure of alternate presiding Governor Mulhall, are there any objections by any governors that I act as the chair pro tem? If I object, what happens next?
Well, I'd have to rule you out of order.
That's it. There we go. Hearing no objections, welcome everyone. I know that Governors Linton and McHugh cannot be with us today, and I know that we expect Undersecretary Sonnenschein to participate by phone shortly.
I'm here.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
Welcome.
Well, welcome. So there's three of us, but so therefore we do not have a quorum. I think what we'd like to do is, I think Governor Ash has a few things that he would like to discuss. He recently returned from a trip to Asia and would like to give a report on that. So with that, I'll turn it over to Governor Ash.
Well, thank you very much, Governor Meehan and Secretary Sonnenschein. Delighted you can be here, and even though we're not able to adopt motions, there's nothing that prevents us from not having a good discussion on some of the issues of the day and dealing with a number of things. And I do want to mention a number of journalists who are facing threats or have been kidnapped or have disappeared. If I mispronounce their names, I apologize. But the main thing is not so much the correct pronunciation of the name as it is to publicize as much we can the fact that working journalists have been kidnapped or abducted or have disappeared under most unfortunate and tragic circumstances. And obviously, as May 3rd, this month, marked World Press Freedom Day, and if journalists are less than free, obviously the day should be dedicated to their release and to their well-being. Many of the countries in which BBG broadcasts are Radio Free Asia, Radio Free Europe, Middle Eastern Broadcasting, as well as OCB, Office of Cuba Broadcasting, are into countries where press freedom is a desired goal and not a reality at present. And many of our reporters face threats of harassment and detention or worse. And certainly on behalf of the board, we want to express deep concern for several egregious and troubling cases. We still, for example, from Syria, have no report on the fate of the Al-Hura reporter, Bashar Afami, who's been missing since August 20 of 2012, when he was caught in the crossfire that led to the murder of one journalist and the capture of another. And on behalf of the board, I certainly ask for anybody with information about his whereabouts to step forward and call for his immediate release. And certainly in terms of contacting the board, I would urge you to contact David Enzer at Voice of America, and his email is denzer@voanews.com, and share with him any information that you might have. And he will certainly get it to the right person if you're able to do that. Another one of our journalists, Radio Free Europe's Turkum Service correspondent, again, Roshan Yasu Mohammadad, was detained just a few days ago on May 6th and was last seen by his parents at a Turkmen detention center. We're not aware of any charges that have been filed and no further word on his fate, but certainly Amnesty International, Reporters Without Borders, Human Rights Watch have all appealed for his immediate release amid concerns with the possible risk of torture while in detention. Kevin Close, who is our president of Radio Free Europe, is here, and if he has any further comments to make, I'd certainly welcome him making them at this time.
Governors and colleagues and public who are here.
first of all, we have obviously great concerns about these matters, and I will tell you that we have been we have a clear path of notifications across the areas of interest in the U.S. government, and we're doing everything we can to clarify and get freedom for those who are under this kind of pressure. Having no news at all is very, very disturbing, but we also understand the conditions there can be. We don't have control over it, and they are greatly chaotic and unpredictable. And so I would just say to you that so far as we know nothing more than what we have, it's not as bad as it could be, and we're working to do what we can to find clarity in it. Thank you.
Governor Meehan, also I'd like to report that I was in Asia on a personal trip, but I used some time when I was in Cambodia, where Libby Liu, the president of Radio Free Asia, happened to be there as well, to visit the Radio Free Asia office in Phnom Penh. And they're working very diligently on covering the upcoming parliamentary elections in Cambodia. And I'm pleased to say that on May the 3rd, Ambassador Todd, the American ambassador to Cambodia, came to the RFA office and met with the employees there, and it was a very inspiring and encouraging meeting for the men and women who work there. And Cambodia, unfortunately, does not have a free press. I think it's very clear that Radio Free Asia is the radio of choice and the source of news for Cambodians who want objective news. Wherever we went, where the subject came up and people were free to comment in private, they volunteered that was the station they listened to. We were even ahead of our French friends because Radio France does operate objective news stories in Cambodia as well. Ahead only in the sense that people volunteered that the American-supported Radio Free Asia was the first choice that they listened to. So that was a very important meeting. And then the following Monday, I was in Bangkok and met with the IBB director there, Bridget Berg, as well as Barry Newhouse, the VOA correspondent. And that Monday actually was a Thai holiday, being Coronation Day, celebrating the king's 60-plus years on the throne. But they took time out to meet with me, and it was, again, good to learn more about what they're doing and the outreach. And, of course, we meaning BBG in Thailand, have 2 transmission stations there at Ayutthaya, one and the other at Udon Thani, up by the Laotian border. And they do outstanding work. And the Thai government has generally been supportive of our ability to operate there, for which we are appreciative. And Governor Meehan, I know you just returned from a very important trip with Governor McHugh and Kevin Close to Moscow, and meeting with people in their office there. And obviously that's been a troubled situation, but it seems like I understand things may be improving.
Yes, thanks, Governor Ash. Governor McHugh and I went to Moscow. As many of you know, we're going through a management reorganization in the Moscow Bureau of Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, Radio Svoboda. And we had a chance to go see our joint facility where the RFERL and VOA reporters will have a headquarters and a working space. 7 months ago, some decisions were made, and that did not look well upon our organization and did not look well upon our government. And this was an opportunity for Susan and I Kevin as the leaders of the board to visit with some folks. I want to congratulate Kevin, who came into a situation that he did not create, but has worked very expeditiously to make many of the actors and many of the key people very comfortable with some of these choices. We did not need to be there very long to realize how difficult a circumstance it is in Moscow today, how quickly the circumstances have changed right before our very eyes. I don't think we would have said this 18 months ago. I know that Undersecretary Sonnenschein was over there on behalf of the State Department, and she gave us a debrief of her trip before we left, and we sort of built up some goodwill. Had a chance to celebrate Russian Easter at a human rights champion, Ludmila Alexieva's house that Sunday. And then our good friend Secretary Kerry was with her 2 days later. We had a chance to sit with some of the top human rights folks in Moscow today who are under unbelievable threats. The tag of foreign agent that Putin and his government are doing to people who are trying to speak up for human rights and the civil society is unbelievable. And these people are fearless. They're fighting every which way possible, and it is vitally important for us to use our collective strengths to give them the voice so they can stand up for people who don't have voices in that country. And it's a big challenge, and it's important work that we're doing. I'm very impressed. Had a chance to visit with VOA Bureau Chief Jim Brooks. We had a great dinner. We talked to other American journalists there. It really is one of those on-the-ground examples of what we hoped for as a board 3 years ago when we came up with a strategy of collaborating and working together. And then as commercial enterprises diminish, we met with other reporters who work for commercial enterprises, and they're looking to share resources. So I think this could be one of our benchmarks of cooperation. Changing Smith-Mundt gives us an opportunity to share some journalistic resources in places that are difficult to cover. So I came back inspired by the commitment of our journalists, inspired by the opportunities that we have to do tough journalism in hard places, and the commitment of people to make things work. So it was a very encouraging trip. Sad circumstances that led to where we were, but I'm glad we've turned the corner. And I'll keep Easter references aside, but we definitely have a new chapter underway, and we need to continue to stay focused on that. But it was a very productive trip.
You also met with the ambassador, did you not?
We did have a chance to go see Ambassador McFall, and we actually had a very robust conversation, which again underscored some of the disparities of how the world works in the media side. The Russia Today and the CCTV can have glorious studios and all the visas they want and all the chances to do free media here in our nation's capital. But we're not necessarily afforded similar opportunities of size and scale on the other side. And he's agreed, and some of our colleagues at the State Department, we've been talking with them about ways of which we can try to put that on the agenda of things to talk about, and having some parity in terms of media coverage and journalism in each countries. And so there are some follow-up that we've discussed with the staff of things to do, but there's a willingness to join shoulders and work together on advancing our journalistic mission there.
Right. And you might, I look forward to going there after our meeting in Prague on June 21, 22, or 2021. We'll be in Prague 19, 20, and then on to Moscow, and see even further changes. Mr. Loesch, you made some management changes in terms of the lead person now being in Prague for the Moscow office.
Governor, the circumstances are that the then serving director of the Russian service, Ms. Masha Gessen, tendered her resignation to me and made her announcement to the staff in the Moscow bureau on the 30th of April, saying that she had decided to take up a book contract I knew at the time that she had several book contracts. She was under contract for several books, specifically the book about the young women singer protesters called Pussy Riot, which has been of international concern and which she has covered rather intensively. But she informed me that it was yet a new contract that she was intent upon pursuing, and the next day, her publisher, Riverhead Books, announced that they had put Ms. Gessen under contract to write a book about the Chernayev brothers, the accused bombers in the terrible Boston Marathon bombings, and that's the sequence. And at the time that she made her announcement to the staff present in Moscow, and we were on a video conference, a regular weekly video conference between Moscow and the Russian service in Prague. We also said that we would be prepared to speak to any member of the staff who, on their own, would consider also, if they thought they would, consider also perhaps taking this opportunity to think about their own futures, and if they had any thoughts of resigning or going, taking a similar step, if they had other things to pursue. I might say that life in the Moscow Bureau is extremely demanding. It's there's a tremendous need for high quality, high impact, fact-based journalism. It's like any other newsroom that any of us have ever been in or were nurtured by. It's a very, very demanding place, and there have been a number of people who'd come in who had encountered that over the previous 5 or 6 months, and we were prepared to listen to them if they would talk to us about their thoughts about going forward. And so there have been some other voluntary resignations as well in the Moscow Bureau, and I've named a woman some of you may know here named Irina Lagunina, who is an 18-year veteran of Radio Liberty's Russian service, and she will be the chief editor based in Prague. And she'll be coordinating with leadership in the Moscow Bureau. And I believe that to be very appropriate to the circumstances in the Russian service, because as the Chernayev suspects, the Chernayev brothers who were named as suspects, show us, there can be multinational, multi-identity, multilingual, multi-locational connections that are not just about the Russian service directed from Moscow, which I believe is inappropriate, and we have actually eliminated the position under Russian law in the Russian Federation. I believe that the Russian service needs to be located with the other services in Prague, because cross-coordination, collaboration, and pursuing stories in multinational, multi-location realities, which is what we're all confronted with in these days of when terrorism can strike under almost any guise and be identified in many different ways. We need to have that accumulated knowledge and that accumulated ability to coordinate and to help each other out, follow these stories, and learn as much as we can for our listeners, our viewers, and our readers. So I'm very pleased to say that Ms. Lagunina has accepted the assignment, and she is working very closely with colleagues, long-serving colleagues and new colleagues, both in Moscow and in Prague. And I will just finally say that a number of people have who are very prominent journalists in the Moscow reality, which is as you said, Governor Meehan very accurately, is a reality which is under tremendous pressure from the regime. They have emerged to voluntarily say they wish to help Radio Liberty get forward and use as much of their knowledge so that we can connect to the Russians at this time via all the means of platform and of media that we can find. So we're beginning a period of tremendous intellectual ferment and creative growth, and we're going to see new content, new, if you want to call it products, new programming, new ways to reach people by these new constantly emerging media platforms in I think, a very important way for the future of the service and for what we do, all of us try to do in this work that we're doing here as well.
Let me just say, Mr. Close, how much, and echo what Governor Meehan said in terms of appreciation for the work that you've done. For those who may be listening to this, they may not know of your distinguished history of having worked in Moscow in the past and your fluency in Russian and having also been with Radio Free Europe and the wealth of background and qualification that you bring to this position, which makes you uniquely qualified to bring order and progress out of what's been a difficult inheritance that you've had. I failed to ask Libby Liu, who, of course, as president of Radio Free Asia, was in Cambodia, if there were any comments she wanted to add to what I said about being there, because you were actually there longer than I was.
Ash, I would agree. The situation in Cambodia is getting worse every day, and I think it was a real boost for the staff to have Ambassador Todd there, and the embassy there has worked really closely with us as we've been under a lot of governmental pressure and attack. So, thank you.
Governor Ash, if I might, I'm really also delighted that you were able to get to Cambodia and to see my good friend and colleague from Kabul days, Ambassador Todd, and get his hands-on support for RFA, our sister network there. We're also pleased to see pretty good numbers for our audience in Cambodia, and we're very pleased that Mam Sanando is a free man, the owner of a Beehive, which is heavily responsible for those good numbers, both for RFA and for Voice of America in Cambodia.
May I add, just to say on the Russian side of your visit, Governor Meehan and Governor McHugh in absentia, the citizens of Russia whom you met with, both members of the serving staff, previous members of the staff who may or may not be interested in coming in having an engaged conversation with us about returning or not, the human rights leaders. And the people around us were deeply impressed by your commitment to hear them, to interact with them in very serious ways. And I might just say for the colleagues, from the moment the governors landed into Domodedovo until they left 3.5 days later, it was constant conversation and discussion and outreach and contact in the most profoundly important way. And I think it was enormously important, both to our own people, but to also the people who feel and know that the future is a very complicated future. So thank you so much.
I suppose, Governor Meehan, we should discuss the previously scheduled meeting in Prague for our audience, and the fact that I think I will be the only governor actually in Prague on June 19 and 20. That technically the meeting.
So far.
What?
So far.
So far. Secretary Sonnenschein, we'd love to have you come to Prague. It's halfway to India.
Well, I certainly will make sure I'm represented, which Dan will be physically there and that I'm on the phone, but I think the India trip with the Secretary is going to involve lots of prep leading up to it. So I will dispatch Dan to have him have the glory, and I will just dial in from wherever en route I am.
Well, I envy you having the chance to have 16 or 17 quality hours with the Secretary on, I guess that's not Air Force One, but what do they call the Secretary's plane? Is there a name? Sextate One or something like that? I don't know.
Yeah, it's usually just talked about as the Secretary's plane.
Well, it's a very nice plane.
Yeah, but I will be with you however I can telephonically, and Dan will be there in person.
Well, great. But I think what will work, and hopefully will work, is that we'll have the meeting on the 19th, the meeting meaning the BBG board meeting. We can hope springs eternally that we would have a quorum, but we haven't had one since December, so unless somebody gets confirmed, I'm not sure we will. But we can still have robust discussions and reports from the entity heads, from our IBB director and others, and Secretary Sonnenschein and Michael Meehan, Susan McHugh can participate by teleconference here in Washington. And the meeting may be held over at RFE because their facilities are very conducive to that kind of meeting. And hopefully there'll be time for public input or statements. And no reason Lynn Weil and Tish King can't set that up, whether it be here at the Cohen Building or at RFE. And so we'll comply with the previous adopted motions for that meeting.
And then we do have members of the public that are here today that have
Right.
asked to speak, so I'd like to give them an opportunity. Ann Noonan is
I did have one further question. At the last meeting, I asked about the fire down at the OCB in Miami, and Mr. Garcia's here. I wondered if you could tell us any more about the extent of the damages, and I gather it happened from a smoking episode.
Yes, sir. It was from a smoking episode, and the newsroom is being repaired as we speak. The damage has been substantial, but the employees, contractors, and everyone involved with OCB has not missed a beat, sir, since the fire occurred. We're working in cramped conditions, but we're working and doing what I think is an excellent job, like I've been doing for a long time. So, we're plugging along.
Has the furniture that was damaged, has it actually been replaced?
Sir, we're not there yet because they're still working on the permits so that they can remodel and continue to the reconstruction of the newsroom. But we already have quotes, as you know, for replacement of the furniture.
All right, and what do you anticipate the cost will be?
The total cost?
Yes.
I don't, it depends what you're talking about, for the building or for the
No, I'm at the
furniture?
furniture.
I'm not sure what the invoice that I gave you or you were,
Well, since it says it's covered under attorney-client privilege, I'm not, yes, I am looking at it here, but Mr. Comer's put the fear of God in me that if I say anything, I'll go to jail.
no,
So I don't
Before
want to
Victor,
do
you go to
that.
jail, just letting folks know that I'm going to sign off to take an urgent call, but don't put Victor in jail.
Thank you. Well, they have visitation hours.
unless he wants to be put in jail, now it's up to him.
no, Governor Ash, we have a quote here. I mean, we supplied a quote to the board on our report of several items. There's a breakdown of them, and it's a matter of, the board has knowledge. Do you want me to say this publicly? Is that what you're asking me?
Yeah, I mean, it's taxpayers' money. I don't know any reason you couldn't.
It
public.
appears that,
Can I think I'd like to move to the public section of this. There's attorney-client privilege issues, there are other issues involved here. The board's been notified. I'm not sure where this is headed. I certainly don't want anybody to go to jail, and definitely don't want Carlos to go to jail. So maybe if we could take up this
Well, no,
matter
I-
in a governor's briefing after the public
Will
session.
we have a governor's briefing after this?
I would like the public who's expecting to speak
Okay.
to speak first, and then we can move. I've notified the staff that I'm able to stay longer to discuss about governor's briefings, so I'm happy to do that. And Carlos, you're able to stay, right?
absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
All right,
Ann Noonan?
well, I mean, the fire was well covered in the media, and I think, I just want to get to the bottom of it, and also if smoking was the cause, what programs can we encourage to discourage smoking by employees who might want to transition from a smoking habit, which is unhealthy?
Well, I'm not sure it's really the purview of the Board of Governors to determine what employees do on something that's perfectly legal in this country, what my personal
We
feelings
adopt
aside.
policies on smoking all the time. You're not allowed to smoke in the Cohen Building, that's a government.
Yeah, there are federal laws that prohibit places and locations where it can happen, but you can actually, it's legal to buy tobacco and smoke, and it's hard to sort of have that. And there have to be smoking areas, which there are some. So, and we've all been down to OCB, and it's a tough neck of the woods, and we got to make sure our employees are safe as well. So, again, I think we should be able to pick this up in a governor's briefing, since some of the material here is.
No, I'm glad to do that,
you
but
know,
at some point, I think we need to share with the public what policies we have or don't have in terms of assisting employees who are wanting to transition from smoking, which is not easy to give up, to a non-smoking lifestyle.
Well, I'm happy to have a debate with you about the pros and cons of smoking, but I just don't think this is the forum. It would be great if there are other members of the board here. So if we could just move to governor's briefing for this matter. Go ahead.
I assure you that aside from the smoking issue, we've taken every precaution necessary, so it's a safe workplace. Director Lobo was there, I think, last week. Some people from Andrea Mendez's shop have also come down. So we're taking every single step so that OCB is a safe workplace under the circumstances that we face, Governor. And I'll be happy to brief you in detail in a governor's briefing meeting if that's what you're
Well,
suggesting.
I would encourage
Thank you.
Mr. Comer to lift his ban on this memo.
Governor Ash, I'll
and release
support
it.
you on this once I get a chance to hear in private session about the attorney-client privilege nature of this. So you'll have my support, and we don't have a quorum, we're not able to act.
Well, that's right.
And so therefore, we can't do this action, and I would like to move to the members of the public that are
Oh,
here.
that's fine.
That would like to address us. So Ms. Noonan, we have 3 minutes. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. On behalf of the Committee for U.S. International Broadcasting, I'd like to congratulate BBG Governors Victor Ashe, Susan McHugh, and Michael Meehan for receiving the Champion of Free Speech Award given by the New York chapter of the Visual Artists Guild. As the former president of the New York chapter, I was happy to recommend these 3 BBG governors for their hard work this past year to promote and improve U.S. news broadcasts to China, Tibet, Russia, and other nations without free media. We also congratulate these 3 governors for all of their outstanding efforts to help restore the integrity of Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty. We are sure that the courageous journalists in Russia and in other Radio Liberty broadcast areas who through no fault of their own were removed from their jobs last year and are looking forward to being reinstated. We are confident that their audience appreciates everyone who took this matter seriously so that RFE-RL could uphold their congressional mandates. And once again, we applaud the efforts of Kevin Close to reform Radio Liberty. CUSIB remains aggrieved that cuts to Voice of America and Radio Free Asia broadcast service to China continue. While not discounting the importance of other media delivery platforms, shortwave radio remains the most affordable, the safest, and the most reliable channel to pass information to the most oppressed and economically deprived groups fighting for their human rights. We implore the BBG to think about this underserved audience and restore radio frequencies and money for broadcasters. The budget for these services needs to be increased by the BBG and by Congress. CUSIB is appalled to hear that the White House has chosen to replace Victor Ashe on the BBG board, while 2 other vacancies remain unfilled. This news came while BBG's interim presiding governor, Michael Linton, has missed every board meeting for the last 5 months, thus preventing the board from having a quorum. The loss of Victor Ashe at this time would be a huge blow to U.S. international broadcasting at a time of increasing risk abroad to national security. He is the only governor with a perfect attendance record at board meetings. Victor Ashe is a champion of media freedom, free speech, transparency, and good government. He turned out to be right on every issue of mismanagement and waste that he raised. Together with Governors Susan McHugh and Michael Meehan, and with the support of Secretary of State John Kerry's designee, Secretary Sonnenschein, he led the fight to save RFE-RL's mission and reputation. He is a hero to rank-and-file journalists and other federal and non-federal employees. He has won admiration and support of the BBG Employee Union for his efforts to reform the agency's bureaucracy at the International Broadcasting Bureau. His efforts demonstrate how bipartisanship can work effectively. Replacing Victor Ashe on the BBG board at this time is incompressible and looks to many as an attempt by bureaucrats and big financial political contributors to get rid of a governor who annoyed them with his demands for accountability, transparency, and good performance for American taxpayers. CUSIB is also deeply concerned that some BBG members and nominees whose private media companies for which they work do big business in China and Russia have a conflict of interest with promoting media freedom, which annoys governments that control business access for such media companies. Victor Ashe, and for that matter, the majority of current BBG members, have no such conflict of interest issues. CUSIB will officially and respectfully request that the White House reconsider its decision to replace Governor Ashe, and to do so in consultations with Senator Mitch McConnell and other leaders in the U.S. Senate, and submit new nominations to fill vacancies on the BBG board before any of the experienced governors who work hard and show up for meetings are replaced. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Paul Westfling's asked to speak. But you need the microphone, though.
if you
You do
want it
need
to
to use the
be
microphone, so you should sit down.
Governors Ash, Governor Meehan, Director Lobo, Director Renser, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. A couple of things that I wanted to bring to your attention. I don't know how much you've been briefed on this. There has been a new but puzzling development in the OCB RIF case. A representative from the General Counsel's office, Betsy Parrish, called our counsel last Friday afternoon and asked what it would take for the union to settle the OCB RIF case. And there was a bit of urgency, this is according to our attorney, in the phone call saying we need an answer by this afternoon. Well, our attorney responded by saying, there's no way in the world we can get an offer to you on such short notice. There are many people who have to be consulted. Whereupon our attorney then asked Betsy Parrish if there was an offer that could be made by the agency to settle this, and she said, I was not authorized to offer you anything. So we are working, the union is working with its attorney, with other officials in the union, I'm involved, as well as the executive board, to come up with what we consider to be an offer that might resolve this issue after 4 years. 16 employees are involved. 2009 is when they were riffed. This case has gone to an arbitrator who has ruled against the agency. It has gone to the FLRA, which has ruled against the agency. The agency has now taken it to federal district court, and we are waiting for a summary judgment ruling from them. To give you an idea about how much this is costing the taxpayer by dragging this on for 4 years, we figure just the back pay alone for these 16 employees is over $7 million. In these days of austerity, that's a lot of money. Second thing I want to bring to your attention is an update on contract negotiations. I would like to say that there is something that I can give you positively. I can't. We have received a letter from the chief agency negotiator saying that the agency will offer its last best offer, which means my way or the highway, or they will begin implementing their proposed contract sometime in July. As far as the union is concerned, negotiations have broken off. There are 2 negotiations scheduled, one in June and one in July. No, one in late May and one in June. We will not be meeting. We will be caucusing. The agency has said it needs time to prepare the last best offer. This has been going on for 4 years. The agency has opened, I believe, 17 articles in the contract. We have reached agreement on some items, but none of the articles have been agreed to, so we can't present a complete package on anything that we've been talking about. The actual negotiations have been going on for 2 years. 1 week a month, which are the ground rules. We even spent a year before an impasses panel coming up with an agreement on the ground rules, which instead of going Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 1 week a month, which is not did not serve anybody well. So if you had not been briefed on that, that's our update.
Great.
Let me ask you, Mr. Westphaling, just for the record, you represent AFGE Local 1812?
I am the General Vice President for AFG Local 1812. I'm also an international radio broadcaster in English. Have been here for 25 years and have been, I would say, on negotiating teams involving Tim Shamble, the union president, for about the last 12 years, on and off. This is the first time that we negotiated not on a regular basis from start to finish.
And you're saying, if I heard you right, that you were notified, I mean, at least I, as one board member, am totally unaware of this, but you were notified by the lead negotiator on May 2, just 13 days ago, that you'd get a last and best offer?
That they are preparing a last and best offer, which will be presented to the union at the table, I'm assuming, in late June, and that if the last and best offer is not agreed to by the union, they will begin implementing it.
All right, who can answer that? Is that true, Mr. Lobo?
Well, some of it.
Well, tell us what's not true. And
Some
what
of it is true, Governor, but as in all union or labor cases, there are two sides to every story.
All right. Well, I'm anxious to hear both sides.
Well, and I would like our lead negotiator to come and respond to it because she's the one that's handling the negotiations for us. But at
Is this her?
April Kerbal, you've met with her and you've heard her before because this issue has come up many times, Governor, and you've been very anxious to move things along and bring it to a conclusion. So we have indeed now moved it along to the point where we said, all right, we've done negotiating. This is the last and best offer that we're going to make. And please listen to it, and then we'll
What are the consequences of that?
going to impasse.
All right.
So, April.
Tell us about it.
Yeah, so that's just standard. What happens is the party that brings a proposal forward, which was the agency, we say this is our last and best offer. So that's what we did. What actually happens procedure-wise, though, is the union then files something with the Federal Services Impasses Panel to put it into the status quo. So we're not going to be able to implement until the FISIP panel is able to make a decision on it. And the union has actually already filed a letter with FISIP.
We have withdrawn it with prejudice.
Well, we're not going to have a running
didn't know
debate. We're
that,
not going to
yeah.
have a running debate here. I think that's an opportunity for governors to ask questions, not for the two of you all to debate each other. My question is, first of all, can we see what the last, I mean, you're acting in our behalf, but the truth of the matter is, we don't know what you're even negotiating over.
Those records are available to you.
I can't hear you.
Those records are available to you. So I can provide you any records that you would like to
Well,
look
I
at.
think if you would, I assume you sent a letter dated May 2.
Yes.
What'd you say, Mr. Lobo?
So I would recommend, and I'm prepared to make a motion that the public session is over, and I'm happy to have this conversation in the governor's briefing, because I'm not interested in negotiating this during, in public either.
Nor am I, but I want to know
So
what
I'm-
on
I'm-
our behalf.
I'm offering a motion to adjourn. It's a privileged motion.
No, I did not mean, Governor Meehan, to bring this up as a negotiating point. This was simply a point of information from the union to the Board of Governors.
And I
To let us
appreciate
know
that.
From the union standpoint, where we stand.
I appreciate that, but from this point forward, I do not want to participate in this negotiation.
Sure.
And so therefore, I'm calling, I have a motion to adjourn, and I would like to adjourn to June 19th, the next scheduled meeting of the Broadcasting Board of Governors.
You might have,
I'm not, wait just a minute.
I've only been made aware that there were two that were
All right, just
prepared
in
to
case.
speak. There are other members of the public that are here, but they hadn't requested to speak,
Did
unless
Mrs.
I've somehow
Cabral say
missed
she was
that.
gonna provide
just in
me a
case, I
copy?
was just.
No, I
Yes.
appreciate that. There was one that had but hadn't shown up. If they have shown up, I'm happy to have them. But if not, then terrific.
You don't have, right now, it's a tie vote to adjourn. I just want to ask her one more question, then I'll be happy to vote for it.
But it's a privileged motion, though.
I know, but I'm not voting for it, and you're voting for it, so it's 1-1. But
So-
let me ask one more question, I'll vote for it.
If I leave, you still won't have a quorum.
That doesn't matter.
I'm
You don't
prepared to have you,
have-
I'm prepared to go to governor's briefing and have you ask her as many questions as you want in front of the
Understand,
remaining
but I
staff.
just-
I'm just not prepared to negotiate in public.
And I don't want to negotiate. I'm asking for information. I'm not negotiating.
And I'm happy to have the
And I
staff
want
come
the-
back and participate in a conversation.
But I want to
about
hear
this.
on the record, because I think it's important, that those governors who want to see a copy of the May 2 letter will get it.
She just said that.
Yes, we said that.
Said that you
I
give the
just
whole
want to
thing.
make sure that everyone else heard it.
Great.
Yes, okay. So there's a motion on the table to adjourn.
To June 19th.
June 19th, some of us will be in Washington, some of us will be in Prague, some of us will be on the telephone.
Might even one be in L.A.
Could be.
I'll second your
Second the motion, hearing no objections, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for your participation, and thanks for the members of the public
Now we
for
go to
participating
governors
as well.
only.
We will stop recording now. Thank you.